An absolutely terrifying hacker email is coming to an inbox near you. Also on today's show, a video game special including in-depth talk about cloud gaming, the release date of the Cyberpunk game, PSN name changes, and Microsoft buying the developers of Fallout. Also, Germans are crazy, and the Tokyo fish market has moved to a new location. I go by the name of Johnny Massacre, and you are witnessing the Johnny Massacre Show. Hello people, I'm back. It is Thursday in Tokyo. Thank you for joining me so much. Always good to have you with me. As I like to say, you are very much as much a part of this show as I am, and I cannot do it without you. So, hello. So first off, a scary email is coming to an inbox near you. Now, listen to this email that I received today, titled, "Account was hacked." Hello, I am a member of an international hacker group. As you could probably have guessed, your account, and then it says my email, was hacked because I sent message you from your account. I think it means I sent you a message from your account. So if I go to the top, it says my name and email to myself. So it looks like someone's got hold of my password, but I think they can just do this to make it look like that. Anyways, now I have access to all your accounts, exclamation mark. For example, your password for this email is, and then says a password which I have used, so this got my attention. Within a period from July 30th, 2018 to October 9, 2018, you were infected by the virus we've created through an adult website you visited. Hey, I'm a man, and men do what men gotta do. So far, we have access to your messages, social media accounts, and messengers. Moreover, we've gotten full dumps of these data. So a few spelling mistakes, which kind of shows you that this is probably bollocks. We are aware of your little and big secrets. Yeah, you do have them. We saw and recorded your doings on porn websites. Your tastes are so weird, Well, I live in Japan. Actually, relatively speaking, it's pretty normal out here. But the key thing is that sometimes we recorded you with your webcam, syncing the recordings with what you watched, exclamation mark. I think you are not interested. Show this video to your friends, relatives, and your intimate one. Well, my girlfriend's a freak. I don't have any friends, and my relatives don't. Well, mum and dad, hey. Well, if they see it, not going to be the end of the world. Transfer $800 to our Bitcoin wallet. If you don't know about Bitcoin, blah, 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 I guarantee that after that, we'll erase all your data. A timer will start once you read this message. You have 48 hours to pay the above mentioned amount. Blah, blah, blah. Take care of yourself. So that was an interesting email to wake up to this morning. Of course, the fact that they had a password meant I went and checked my passwords and stuff, and everything seemed to be legit. So watch out for this email because it's pretty freaky. It reminds me of something I watched. It was literally the last thing I ever watched that was on TV. I don't like TV, but there's this thing, I think it's called Black Mirror. That's what it's called. And I've seen one episode of this TV show, and it was the scariest thing ever. It was basically this kid, and he was into child porn, and I just got demonetized for mentioning that. Thanks, Black Mirror. And he received an email saying, "Oh, we know you're a pedophile, and we're gonna release it to the public, your school, your friends, your family." So he's then blackmailed into doing all this crazy stuff, and in the end, he has to fight to the death with someone to clear his name, and he actually wins and kills this guy. And the twist is at the end, the hackers release his stuff anyway. So it was a great bit of TV because you felt sorry for this guy because his life's going to be ruined, but you don't know he's actually a pedophile until right at the end. So you're actually rooting for this guy to clear his name and kind of save his reputation. But at the end, you find out he's a paedophile, and so then you're kind of torn because you can't obviously support someone like that. So this email reminds me of Black Mirror, and I remember when I saw that, I thought, fuck, that would be awful. So yeah, I got this email this morning, and I thought, I'm going to become a porn star. But yeah, obviously it's just bollocks, and it's just the current one doing the rounds. Apparently these kind of emails, they have a password that you might have used in the past, or it might be current or whatever. Even if you haven't looked at porn, you're still going to get the same kind of mail. So watch out for that one. That's pretty interesting. Right, moving on to the video game special. So we talked about cloud gaming a little bit on yesterday's show, and I voiced a few concerns about the speed of cloud gaming and if it would be suitable for kind of twitchy precision games like Halo. So I started reading a lot more about cloud gaming, and there is an absolute shit ton of news and information on this. I found 3 articles really that I want to kind of share with you. So let me take you into my web browser. Here we go. So what is cloud gaming, and is it really the future? So this is actually 2 years ago. It's a little old, but it has some interesting key points in it. The key points are still very relevant today. And even 2 years ago, they say cloud gaming had been a tech buzzword for years. The idea that we'll no longer need gaming PCs or consoles with powerful graphics hardware. All the heavy lifting will be done in the cloud. So it says a remote server does all the heavy work, and your computer just receives streaming video and audio. So we pretty much know that already. So what are the theoretical advantages to cloud gaming? No need for expensive hardware investments or upgrades. Play games on any OS or device. We touched on that yesterday about Microsoft bringing Xbox games to any smartphone. Integrate gaming into TVs and other devices. That's pretty much the same thing. Instant playing, so you don't need to download anything. Easy spectating. The spectating pretty much can be done now. It's already happening on PlayStation and so on. And DRM, digital rights management. So this is an advantage to the developers. It means you're not going to be able to copy games. So they must be licking their lips at the prospect of streaming video games to customers. So the disadvantages are video compression. Just like with audio, the visuals will be compressed, and since now we're all starting to enjoy 4K gaming, how in the hell are we going to stream 4K visuals? It's going to make the connection very slow, and also bandwidth, which affects how fast the game is, latency. And this is the point that I was mentioning yesterday. There's no getting around it, the article says. Games can react to your actions much more quickly when they're running on your local computer. Reaction time is faster when your mouse movement just has to reach your computer than when it has to travel over an internet connection, be rendered and compressed. So that was obviously a concern 2 years ago. It remains a concern because there has been no serious jump in internet speeds in the last 2 years, or even the last 10 years. Honestly, it's been pretty similar all around the world. So that's a kind of good way to get into the whole cloud gaming thing. I read something somewhere, and I've lost the article, but it was just some random geezer online talking about cloud gaming, and he was dissing it. And he was saying, look, this is just going to be like any other newfangled technology that developers kill. They rush it out too fast. They're not ready with it. The technology isn't refined, and then people just don't give a fuck about it. One of those things was probably 3D. We had the 3D movies back in the days with the 3D glasses, and then that became a novelty very quickly. And then recent 3D, you feel that's also becoming a novelty. Avatar made it popular, but you get these kind of newfangled technologies, and sometimes they don't really improve your life that much, and so they go by the wayside. So I think video game developers, especially hardware manufacturers, are rushing things too much at the moment. Everyone knows when the PS4 came out, there was no games for it. The same with the Xbox. Look, now we've got the Xbox One X, the sequel to the Xbox One. There's no games for it. Forza came out for it, which is, I think, has kind of developed for that better hardware. But really, there's hardly any games for it. And so we hope, video game streaming, like we talked about yesterday with Microsoft's xCloud service, is not going to be rushed out, because if it's not ready, it's just going to be a waste of everyone's time and put people off it. And that is the main concern here. So I tried to find as much information about cloud gaming as possible. So there's one article. It's really, really good. It doesn't have any Trump derangement syndrome. It doesn't have any politics in it whatsoever. And it is... I'm going to put the link in the information box below. So it's on venturebeat.com. Make sure to check out this link, because it's a few game developers and masters of cloud technology talking about the feasibility of cloud gaming in the near future. So I copied and pasted a few things that they were saying. So just allow me to go back through this article, because I really want to try to educate you a little bit about cloud gaming. So people are having a conversation here. There's a guy called Nelson and a guy called Jacob and a guy called Tops, and these are all very relevant people within the industry. And Nelson says, I don't think there's a question about whether customers want streaming or not. To me, that's different from VR. There's a question about whether the average person wants VR. For cloud gaming, there will never be a question about this. People will always prefer to immediately get what they want. The question is just, can we do it? The publishers deliver good content at the right price, and will the experience be viable? That's what I'm curious to understand. So the key sentence here is people will always prefer to immediately get what they want, which means in theory, cloud gaming is the way forward. What could be better than cloud gaming? No loading times, instant access, more powerful games where you want, when you want. But it's basically limited by internet speeds, which is something that I touched upon yesterday, which was my guess for the limitations of this new world, which is becoming a buzzword. And there's a lot of articles about game streaming today if you check it out online. So these people go on. So Jacob says, people mistake the point of cloud gaming as being technological, just overcoming hurdles. It's about do you have content that justifies the investment into this technology, and can you create a business model that allows the industry to profit off something new? If you treat cloud gaming as, now I can take my console and put it in the cloud, you're doing it wrong. If you're going after that core consumer, they already have an Xbox or a PlayStation. They don't need something like that. So I agree with that. If they do streaming, it's got to be next level of gaming. It's got to be more powerful than what I currently have access to. Otherwise, really, what's the point of it? What's the point? So the guy goes on, furthermore, if the benefit of having a massive server farm is to be able to allow people to have new experiences, why aren't you utilizing that? Why are you taking a product built with local hardware in mind and just putting that on a server? Design new forms of content that are appropriate to the cloud and monetize it with business models that are appropriate to the cloud. Why take games that were packaged and built to be put on discs and throw that same business model to the cloud? Why would you even destroy that value by throwing it away in favor of an all-you-can-eat subscription model? See, the danger here is that cloud gaming could suit the developers more than the actual gamers themselves. If it's cheaper for them to have a big server as opposed to manufacture individual Xboxes, which it might be because the design doesn't matter at all, and they can just make it look like what they want, and they can buy it, I guess, in bulk and have this huge server that's super powerful. It might be more cost effective, but that's not going to be good for us if we don't get fast games. So in an ideal world, the powers that be will make streaming another level of gaming, an evolution of gaming, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I think the digital rights management is very high on the motivation list of the developers to make streaming mainstream. If the vast majority of the game industry these days monetizes through engagement and microtransactions, why would you not create a business model for streaming that allow people to do that? So yeah, microtransactions and little payments you can do cosmetically, or actually to change the function of the game, or even to help you in the game. This is also a very modern trend, and so it wouldn't surprise me that cloud gaming, which is almost a future trend, and this modern trend of microtransactions might go hand in hand together, which is something I don't know. I don't like microtransactions now because you pay for the fucking game and then you pay for other shit. But if you pay a reasonable subscription service, then perhaps microtransactions wouldn't be so bad. Maybe that is the future of gaming. What do you think? So moving on, the conversation continues. So this is the really interesting part. I've been trying to find information about the limitations of streaming, especially in regards to power, because this is what I think people want. If this is attainable, this is what I think the people behind these cloud services should do. People want amazing graphics. I think that is such an important part of gaming culture. People are blown away by this new technology. That's what it's always been about. And a lot of companies challenged that business strategy and that ethos. For example, Nintendo, when they released the Wii, that was one of the most successful video game consoles of all time. And that was very underpowered compared to the competition. And so Nintendo proved that things don't need to be ultra powerful in order to be fun. And hey, the Wii was really good, but I love being surprised by new technology and I love engaging with it, going inside it via a video game. It's a wonderful, nerdy experience. And so I don't think I'm alone in saying that I want to play games with incredible graphics. Back in the day, arcades used to have incredible graphics, and then home consoles got good enough to kill the arcade market. Not outright, it's still in Japan, but look, it's not huge here. That's a topic for another day. I can give you my anecdotal stories about arcades in Japan and how they're not doing as well as people might think, but they're doing better than other countries. But look, what I'm trying to say is people want to play amazing looking games, and people used to go to the arcade to do that. And now that since arcades have died, that whole idea of wanting to be absolutely blown away by the graphics has kind of disappeared. People want great graphics, but being blown away with superior hardware is something we can't really experience unless we get this insane custom-built PC, which is only reserved for a special few. So if they can make these ultra powerful servers and allow people to play games with graphics 4 times, 10 times as good as what they are now, that would make me part ways with a monthly subscription for gaming. I would pay that in a heartbeat. And that goes back to what these dudes are saying in this article about how if you're going to do cloud gaming, the right thing to do, the virtuous thing to do, is to really invest in some super powerful tech to give people a new experience. And I think that new experience should be the wow factor. And those graphics it's not just going to be superficial or aesthetic. It's actually going to allow you to do new things in games. For example, you could, I don't know, have a battle, a war, a virtual war with like thousands of players, that kind of stuff, which even unlocks new gameplay. That would be the dream. That's what I want from cloud gaming. So the question about this is, I cannot find the answer online. And as I said at the beginning of the show, you're as much a part of the show as I am. Let's make it together. If you can leave your comments in the box below, if you know anything about what I'm about to talk about, it would be greatly appreciated, because I can't seem to find the answer online. And this article, these people are not holding back. They're speaking in quite technical terms, but even so, it's not clear. And here's the question, right? Is it theoretically possible to make a ridiculously powerful server that people all around the world, hundreds of thousands of people, can all tap into and use together? What are the limits on that? Because this is what I think, right? If many people are connecting to a server, surely the more people that connect to it, the more stress it's going to put on the system. And I don't know exactly how that works, whether it's the CPU or it's the bandwidth or whatever. But if you have this supercomputer, how many people can connect to it before you need another supercomputer? Or is it a case of you just need one supercomputer and endless people can connect to it, and it's just a case of bandwidth and to do with internet connections? How does that work? The more powerful the computer, the less people you can have connect to it. How does that work? That is what I want to know. And so in this article, they kind of touch on it a bit, and I kind of understand it, but it's still not clear. They don't actually say what the limits are in regard to how powerful it can be and how many people can connect to it. Because if an unlimited amount of people can connect to it, that means my dream, our dream, could come true. We could all have access to this supercomputer. But if you can only have a certain amount of people connecting to it before you need a new supercomputer, then you're obviously going to see some limitations. So that means you're going to have a less powerful systems. How does this work? Let's have a look at this article and try to shed some light on this mystery. So they say, the guy called Tops says, Tops, this is where it gets broken. I really want to explain this to people. This is where delivery becomes different. If you do cloud gaming, you have 100,000 people online. Those 100,000 people create 100,000 unique streams. This means inside your entire network, there's zero caching. I don't know what the fuck that means, but it sounds bad. All of a sudden, you need a pipe that's 100,000 times 5 megabit. So I think he's talking about bandwidth. So the more people that join, the more clogged it's getting, and you need a better technology or smoother technology. And maybe that doesn't even exist now to make it viable. He continues, I think 5 megabit is being very positive. High frame rate, good fidelity, competitive latency, that's probably more like 7 to 12 megabit to get a great experience, maybe even 15. The pipe that you need, and you actually pay for the pipe, the bandwidth is nice, but if you need a concurrent pipe, it becomes really expensive at scale. So I think what he's saying is the more gamers you have, the better technology you need, and you need a better pipe, whatever that is. I guess it's kind of metaphorical, or actually a literal connection from the person via the internet to the computer. And so maybe that goes to show, that the more people that connect, the better technology or more expensive technology you need, which would limit the possibilities of cloud gaming. Someone continues, Parsec is in the cloud gaming business in that our encoder and streamer powers a cloud gaming service through our business. But we don't believe that right now is the right time for cloud gaming. The economics do not work. It doesn't work because if you want to be playing constantly on this system, for a lot of reasons you said, if you get hundreds of thousands of people on this pipe, it's a problem. There's no caching. So if they try to use a super powerful computer at the moment and loads of people try to connect to it, it's basically not going to work. So we either need better internet or better pipes or whatever that is, better technology, aka better technology. So the tech doesn't seem to be ready. And then this guy, later in the article, one more piece, a guy called Sudin says, $35 buys you a really powerful PC and the cloud. That's what we give you. You can play the latest game that comes out tomorrow, use apps today, or whatever you want. You have content. And then the guy called Navik continues, for you, the consumer decides between buying a $400 console or a $1,000 PC or a $35 per month service. Each one of those gives them access to play their games. I know which one of those sounds most appealing to me. If streaming was seamless, $35 a month for something that's equivalent to an $1,000 PC or more, that's fucking amazing. I do that. But as we now know, the bandwidth is a problem. The technology limitations are a problem. And I want to go back to what Sudin says. He says, for $35, you get a really powerful PC and the cloud. So I think he's breaking it down there quite nicely. And I don't think he literally means you get a PC. These data farms are just racks and racks and racks of CPUs or computers. And a portion of that, a percent of that is yours processing power, I think, which equates to a PC. So I guess that's how it works. So it seems to me from this article that you can't just have one supercomputer and many people connecting to it. Each person takes a portion of that computer. I think that's how it works. Leave your comments in the box below. That is all I could find today about this problem within clouding that I touched upon yesterday. And there's a few other articles on cloud technology as well that I think we should bring up. This one is on Gizmodo. And this last part was actually quite relevant and quite interesting, and it talks about the limitations again of streaming. And since this is a buzzword right now, we've got to be reasonable about the future of streaming. I don't want people to get too excited and for this just to crash. So this article says, if streaming is a big part of the next generation of consoles, then a whole lot of gamers are going to be pissed. Nvidia is already streaming resource-intensive games to its Shield console now, but the experience is just adequate. So we've already got it and it's adequate, apparently, according to Gizmodo. They say that's because streaming a game, especially one with 4K resolution or HDR or at 60 frames a second or higher, requires a lot of bandwidth, and many American gamers simply don't have access to internet service that can handle it. And that really sucks, because Already, video game consoles without streaming are struggling to do 4K resolution and 60 frames a second. Most of them don't. They actually have options for both. And people have been obsessed with that magic number, 60 frames a second, since day dot. I remember, mate, when the PlayStation 1 came out, there was such thing as 60 frames a second. And arcades at that time were all 60. So when Sega brought out the Sega Saturn, yes, that retro console, they had a game called Daytona USA, which was a car racing game. And in the arcade, it looked fucking unbelievable. Super smooth 60 frames a second. Then at home, it looked pretty jerky. It was like 18 frames a second. It was a very bad conversion. And from that day onward, I was obsessed with 60 frames a second. It's super smooth. And I always hoped that the next generation of consoles would bring about true 60 frames per second gaming. And while some games recently, like the Halo title, has done it, they always sacrifice other things like resolution and textures and all that kind of stuff. And so what I'm saying is games consoles now struggle to do 60. So with streaming as well and 4K and all these things thrown in, how the fuck are they going to get that down an internet connection? That is the problem here, isn't it? The article continues. Now, that requires a lot of bandwidth. Now, NVIDIA's service requires at least 15 megabytes per second. Is it megabits or megabytes? I do apologize if I got that wrong. I think it's megabytes. Megabytes per second for 720p at 60 frames per second and 25 megabytes per second for 1080p at 60 frames per second. Okay, that's not too bad. 25, that's pretty much the average internet speed in America, I think. So I've got to get this right. I can't get this right on the show. I can't get this wrong on this show. Megabits. It's not megabytes. Okay, megabits. Sorry, megabits. I apologize. So let me just go back to the article. Right. So yeah, that's kind of reassuring, I guess. 1080p at 60 frames per second requires 25 megabits per second. So that's actually, I think, is the average internet speed in America, just about. The article continues, if it could handle higher resolutions, the bandwidth requirement would increase accordingly, which means getting a game to look as sharp as it does on your PS4 Pro or Xbox One X could easily mean needing 30 to 40 megabit per second. According to Akamai, the average internet speed in the United States is just 18.7 megabytes per second. So, okay, I was wrong there. That was 7 megabytes off the optimum bandwidth needed for 1080p 60 FPS. And that would, so Americans' average speed delivers just 720p at 60 frames per second, basically. That's as good as we can get right now. Worse, a quarter of homes in the US are unable to get broadband level speeds, which is defined as 25 megabits per second or higher. And this is the thing, some places they just literally cannot get fast internet, no matter how much they want it. My brother, he's a serious nerd, love him, God bless him. I love you. He's definitely not watching, but I know, who knows. Anyways, missing my family in Japan. But my brother's one of the biggest nerds ever. His whole revenue and income is from the internet. He's just Mr. Internet. He's hooked up like Neo in the Matrix the whole time. And he has got shitty internet. And he's been campaigning his council to upgrade the pipeline or something on the street and campaigning in his building to get everyone to sign up to upgrade this internet. He's had it for like 10 years and it's really fucked him off. And there's nothing he can do about it. So streaming is totally dependent upon having an internet connection in the first place, and it's not absolutely everywhere yet, but you can't imagine a gaming company just going to streaming because they might cut quite a few people off. So I think the future of this is actually quite far away. So in fact, only 1 in 5 houses can get 25 megabit per second in America, which is not very much, which means only 1 in 5 houses could effectively stream games and then not at the quality they might be accustomed to when playing directly off a console. Things are even more dire when you consider the cost of good internet. If you think paying for Xbox Live Gold or PS Plus is bad, consider that, according to one study, the US is one of the most expensive places in the world to get internet. Right now, the average price of a 25 megabit per second is $66.17. That price fluctuates wildly depending on where you live. So, yeah, streaming, you need a good internet connection, so you're going to have to pay even more for that connection. And the article concludes that this means 6 years of mediocre gaming for at least a quarter of the US. The whole point of a new generation of gaming consoles is better graphics and a better gaming experience. If any part of it relies on robust internet speeds, it's doomed for the foreseeable future. So this article came out a few months ago, before Microsoft even went hard with their announcement on their new streaming service. So that's just giving you another side of the coin about streaming, because there's a lot of overly positive information online, and I just wanted to show you that. So next up today in the gaming special is the fact that apparently Sony are going to allow you to change your PSN name. This isn't such a huge deal, but I changed my name recently on Microsoft on my Xbox to Johnny Massacre. I don't know why it was never like that, and usually people steal that handle, so now I got that handle. That was great. I changed it. I didn't have to pay. I think back in the day you had to pay, but now it's free, and I think if you want to change it multiple times you might have to pay. But on PlayStation you can't change your fucking name. When I was playing with my mate Luke, he's got a really weird ass name, and I was like, mate, what's wrong with your fucking name? And he said, well, back in the day when I used to work in like gaming PR, right, we all had these Xboxes and I got one for free, and that was the gaming tag that came with it, mate. So like I've had it this whole time. I meant PlayStation. So he's got this weird PlayStation name. There was rumours of this happening a few days ago. I sent him a link to the rumours, and now I've just sent Lukey Boy a link to the news that he can change his name at last, and I'm not going to feel so embarrassed when I'm playing next to him online and getting destroyed in one of these Battle Royale games. So, moving on. Cyberpunk release date. So the Cyberpunk game, I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, we're going to look at it now because it's fucking amazing. It looks incredible.
It's a micro-society of its own. In this timeline, technology and...
So this is a game which is using all the science fiction stereotypes and cramming them into one small...
As an example...
I shouldn't say small because it's an open world, but cramming it all into one game. It's got Blade Runner influences, it's got Matrix influences, it's got Back to the Future influences, and the stereotypes are actually quite welcome because it's just what fanboys want. All of their favourite science fiction fantasies available in one experience. So yes, this game is very highly anticipated. They recently had a trailer for it, and before that the trailer was like 5 years before. So this game's been in development hell, but actually it looks like it could have been in development heaven. They were just taking their time with it, making it perfect. And so apparently there's a release date, and people were making a joke on the comments about this game and saying how, oh, we had to wait 5 years for the trailer, and now we're gonna have to wait 5 years for the game to be released. But it might have been leaked. It might have been leaked. So GameZone has published this article, and they say Cyberpunk comes out 2019 according to a Turkish publisher. They say it looks like Cyberpunk 2077, the highly anticipated sci-fi action RPG by the creators behind the Witcher games, is poised to arrive much sooner than anyone really anticipated. And is it really any surprise? Because that gameplay footage they released looks pretty damn close to completion. It doesn't look like a work in progress. It looks like it's nearly done. According to a tweet by Bilcom, the Turkish publisher of Cyberpunk 2077, the game will come out soon as next year. So we've got some Turkish there and a very nice screenshot. I'm liking that screenshot, liking that. Sexy lady. Oh no, she's got horrible Reaper sidearms. That's actually not so attractive. Bilcom has deleted their tweet shortly after posting it, which is a good sign because it means there's probably something to hide, which is the truth. But here's a screen cap of it. No doubt Bilcom was quickly contacted by CD Projekt Red to take down the tweet, who are developing the game. After all, the developer has very openly dismissed any expectations by the gaming press and audience with regards to a soon game release. So, yeah, apparently it's going to come out next year. So, I'm very, 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 very excited about this game. I love science fiction. That poster, did anyone notice that's a Blade Runner poster? Best science fiction movie of all time, and a massive influence behind this game. So really really excited about having a go on that one. Okay, more gaming news. So Microsoft has finalized a deal to buy Fallout New Vegas developer Obsidian. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I know a lot of people who watch this show and a lot of my friends love these Fallout games. I've got to be honest, I've never played a Fallout game because I'm a bit of a graphics whore, as you probably now know if you've got this far in the show. And the graphics just weren't good enough for me. But I know it's a first-person shooter, FPS, RPG, role-playing game. And it's kind of open world. And I do want to play it. It's obviously really, really cool. Decent game. But Microsoft has bought it. And the reason this is relevant is because when a big company that's got loads of money and can just throw money around and lose money and just gamble on loads of investments, I'm talking super billion blue chip money. When companies like this buy respected developers, it usually ends up badly. It's kind of like the old man trying to feel young and relevant again who's really rich. So he buys like a Ferrari, he buys this, he buys that, but he's still an old man and he's not cool and he's not relevant, even if he's driving the Ferrari. So they're trying to buy these Rolls Royce developers or whatever fucking car metaphor you want and tap into some of that reputation and quality. But because it is old men who are just throwing money around, they don't really understand what made these people cool in the first place. They're basically selling out for the mainstream, and there's too many restrictions imposed upon the developer, because once you've been bought, you have to do what daddy says, what the boss says. So look, and a case in point of this is when Microsoft bought Rare. Now Rare have made some of the best games of all time. They made the original GoldenEye on the N64. Younger viewers might not know about this game, but seriously, this game, GoldenEye, it was a James Bond game named after a movie called GoldenEye, and it is the game that really, really started the modern 3D FPS first-person shooter. I'm telling you, it was the first one to do it. Its multiplayer was legendary, and single player was wonderful as well. It's a classic game. And Rare made that. They also made Banjo-Kazooie, which was as good as Mario 64, if not better. And they made a whole bunch of 3D games, Diddy Kong Racing, and they made the Diddy Kong games as well, which were as good as Nintendo games. The original Donkey Kong game on the Super Nintendo, fuck man, when that came out, it was miles ahead of everything else graphically and gameplay wise, although a little bit formulaic. And so Rare, they have all these top games, classic games. Perfect Dark as well was a great FPS they had. And so Microsoft thought, okay, we want good games, let's just buy those motherfuckers. And as soon as they bought them, the games went shit. They released Perfect Dark 2, which was fucking awful. That was a release. That was a launch title for the Xbox 360, I believe. And pretty much they did Viva Pinata, which wasn't great. Which was no, it was all right. I can't knock that too much, but it wasn't as good as the games of old. And then look, you've got EA who bought DICE, I believe, who make Battlefield, and they've turned that into a shit show. And it's never a good sign when an evil megacore buys a kind of young, decent developer. So you have to worry a little bit for Fallout. I'm not too worried because I don't really play the titles, but I'm just warning you about it. Hopefully Microsoft won't meddle with it and fuck it up too much, and they've learned from Rare. But with Rare, I'm not sure. Maybe some developers had already left before Microsoft bought them. It's not directly linked that it's Microsoft's fault or anything, but just going by a pattern in history. When you see a pattern, that's all you have to go by. And the pattern is when the megacore buys a small developer, an indie developer, or whatever, it's going to go shit. I mean, look at these Battle Royale games. Everyone's fucking doing them now, and it's getting saturated, and they're all being bought up and exploited. Fuck it. So, yeah, watch out for that. Let's hope Microsoft do not fuck it up. Yeah. So, Germans are fucking mad. You might have remembered that from the intro of this Johnny Massacre show. Johnny Massacre show number 32, I believe. I can't believe we've done 32 episodes. Amazing. Amazing stuff. I never thought we'd get this far, but we have. And Germans are crazy. And I can say this because I'm German. So I can say whatever I want about my sausage munching brethren. So, look at this, right? There's always news about random murders in Japan. Overall, the murder level is low, but when you do read about them, they always seem to be by complete psychos. Japan does attract a lot of psychos. So German tourist admits to stabbing Japanese man on Nagasaki street. Japan Today tells us a German tourist indicted for attempted murder admitted Wednesday to stabbing an unacquainted man on a street in Nagasaki last year during his first court hearing. It sounds like he's stabbing a man in the court hearing, which was taking part on the street. I think you need a comma there. Yeah, you need a comma after year, Japan Today, but I'll forgive you. They say, but lawyers for Tobias Gross, I know how to pronounce Gross because my mum's German, 25, he's 25 years old, told the Nagasaki District Court that they will contest his criminal responsibility, claiming the crime was committed under the influence of alcohol, causing a different personality to come to the fore. I think there's a little more to this case than alcohol, as you're about to discover. This guy is clearly mentally ill. Prosecutors rejected the defense, although they acknowledged the defendant was drunk when he stabbed the Japanese man several times in the neck in the southwestern Japanese city in the early hours of 3rd of August 2017. Now, another man has died via the neck yesterday. If you watched the Johnny Massacre Show, episode 31, you will have learned the very important life-changing news that a zookeeper was mauled to death after being attacked in the neck by a tiger. Is there a connection to these crimes? Tiger mauling a guy to death on his neck, and now a guy stabbing a guy to death on his neck. Is it just a coincidence? Who knows? So the article finishes off with this. According to the indictment, Gross means big. Gross also caused a minor fire by lighting a shirt in his hotel room before going outside and assaulting the man, who is in his 50s. I've been drunk plenty of times, but I've never started a fucking fire and set fire to my clothes before stabbing someone. So this guy's obviously mentally ill, German geezer, bringing shame on my country. Don't stab people. It's bad. Finally for today, Tokyo's fish market has moved. So if you've been watching the Johnny Massacre Show, you will have seen that Tokyo's fish market is moving. Just a quick recap. Tokyo's fish market is a major area of historical significance that is very high on the list of guidebook things to do when you visit Japan. It's from another era. Actually, there's a Yoshinoya, which is a beef bowl restaurant. Yoshinoya is like the Japanese equivalent of McDonald's. There's a Yoshinoya there, and I believe it was the first ever Yoshinoya in the world, which is amazing. Yoshinoya is all throughout Asia. It's everywhere. It serves this like fast food, beef on rice, and that was in the fish market. And that just shows you how historically significant this place is. It's kind of like walking into or going back in time when you enter the Tokyo fish market, but they've transferred it to a new place. I think it's a little bit corrupt. It's just people who want to kind of make money off a construction deal, but what the fuck do I know? I don't want to be too cynical, but it's moved now, people. It has moved. So it's open to the public pretty soon, and I should head down there. I should check it out just for you. So here it is. This is a picture of the new fish market. I actually thought it was the old fish market. So, I mean, it's not like they've changed it that much, but it looks very functional, doesn't it? A green floor and just grey pillars. Looks a bit miserable in there, actually, but those tuna, look at them. Japan are like raping the seas, man. They account for apparently 80% of the world's seafood consumption. Actually, there's a lot of fake news on this show, so I don't want to perpetrate any fake news. So I'm gonna have to look at this. The percent Japanese people's consumption of the total consumption of seafood worldwide. How much seafood does Japan consume in a year? Is the question. What percent of world seafood production is consumed by Japan? Okay, this is what we want. Let's open this up. We're going to go to Quora. Jordan Peterson's reason for being famous is actually this website. Here is a graph from 2010. It seems somewhere between 6 to 10% are eaten by Japan. Okay. 80% of the fresh tuna. I'm sorry. So Japan don't eat 80% of the world's seafood. That would be fucking insane. It's tuna. So Japan is basically responsible for raping the seas, raping all the tuna. 7.5 billion tons of fish a year, or about 10%. of the world's catch. 81% of the fresh tuna. Wow. So Japan eat 10% of the world's catch, which is just fucking mad because Japan is so small compared to other countries. But it is very dense. They actually do have quite a lot of people here compared to, if you're talking about density, Tokyo, there's far more people in Tokyo than there are in London. So this is the equivalent of 30 kilograms a year per person. So Japan apparently eats 81% of the world's fresh tuna, which is just fucking insane. It's hard to believe. And so going back to the fish market, look, man, I always feel a bit guilty when I see this because they're just raping the seas, man. But it does taste good. We're not going to be around forever, people. Just enjoy it. This article says a new fish market opened in Tokyo's Toyosu waterfront district on Thursday, replacing the aging Tsukiji market after the popular tourist attraction ended 83 years of operation last week. Wow. The market will be open to the public for shopping and tours from Saturday. That's in 2 days after around 900 businesses moved to the new site with around 2,600 haulage vehicles and forklifts. So I'm definitely going to head down there. I'll try to do it on Saturday. I've got to do it for the Johnny Massacre show and let you know how it's different from the old one. But honestly, the old one's amazing. There's this era called Showa. Showa is a specific period in Japan. Time period. The Showa era. There's many eras in Japan, and Showa era is from December 25th, 1926 until 1989. And in that period, you can imagine the world has seen drastic changes. But there's a lot of remnants from Showa era stuff. The posters they used to have on the walls for beer have become kind of iconic for the Showa era. It's kind of like the Andy Warhol soup tins. The what is it? Andy Warhol soup tins. Is it Campbell's? You know those soup tins? Yeah, here you go. Look, those soup tins you see everywhere, designed by Andy Warhol. In a similar way, posters of beer are iconic of the Showa era. And those things, along with the sweets of that era, the Japanese snacks of that era that are completely different today, and so on, really make older Japanese people, of course, feel nostalgic. But actually, foreigners who haven't lived in that era can really get something from it. When you see the old Japanese bars with the lanterns and the kind of hanging, swaying lanterns and the wooden exteriors, that's very much from the Showa era. So it's really cool. And so, yeah, this market moving is kind of destroying a time capsule of the Showa era, and it's going to make a lot of people sad. Anyways, rambling. My ADD is out of control. Let's go back to the article. So I got to go down there on Saturday. Trading at the new site began after midnight, 2 years later than the initial schedule, due to additional safety work to address contamination concerns. Okay, so about contamination concerns, I mentioned this last time. Yes, it's been delayed for 2 years. Apparently there was like arsenic or something in the soil, crazy like that. And I spoke to my Japanese mate, and he gave me some more info on this. He said that this might be political smear. So someone who was running a campaign, who wanted to get elected for something in the Japanese parliament, really tried to ram home that this was contaminated, and they basically used that, exaggerated the contamination in order to appeal to voters and say, we're going to fix it. Or maybe they said they were going to keep the original site or whatever, but they used it as a kind of political tool. So whether or not it was really contaminated or how bad the contamination is, I'm going to have to get more info from my Japanese friends, and I will, but I just wanted to update you on that. So don't always believe everything that you read. It might not be the case that when you eat a piece of Tsukiji fish, you're going to be growing another eyeball by the time you wake up tomorrow. Back to the article. Like a Simpsons fish. You know that Simpsons fish with 3 eyes? You ever seen that? There's a fish in a river that runs by Homer Simpson's nuclear power plant where he works, and it's got 3 eyes. It's a very iconic fish. You're not gonna that is not gonna happen to you if you eat there, and the fish aren't gonna look like that either. So yes, going back to the article, The Toyosu market, on a 40-hectare site 1.7 times larger than Tsukiji market, has an enhanced sanitary management system and enclosed facilities to regulate internal temperatures. Okay, so basic stuff. It's just going to be more technologically advanced and it's going to be bigger. The opening of the market was delayed as soil and groundwater contamination at the site, previously used by gas production plant, raised safety concerns. But I mean, come on, building a fish market on a ex-gas power plant site is just fucking so stupid, man. That's so stupid. The article finishes: the site of Tsukiji market on reclaimed land in the heart of the capital will be used to pool transport vehicles for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. A stretched section of a beltway will also run through the site to whatever. So they're going to use the original site for storing some Olympic stuff or vehicles for travel. But what they do with that site is going to be interesting. They might redevelop that. I want to go down to the comments because there's always a few interesting comments. Yubari says, would have liked to have read more about just how the problems at the new site were rectified. Next guy, Hiro, says, nothing beats seeing a fresh and new place. The old one was really run down, in my opinion. Time for new things. Hope this one will last a century and be even more famous. That's very positive. I love you, Hero. I love you. Michael Jackson says, I'm with Yubaro on this one. Sure, it looks nice, but they're worried. Yubaro responds, guess there are some folks who just can't part with the old ways and rather enjoy the prospect of buying some dioxins with their fresh fish too. So he's being a bit of a dick. He's just kind of trying to antagonize people, as is the way online. And yeah, so that's it really. Concerns about the contamination, but let's try to be positive. I just hope this is as interesting as the old one, because as I said, it's like another era, and coming there as a tourist really allows you to feel what Japan's about and what real Japan's about, because it's been Americanized so much and so modernized that you lose a sense of where these people came from, and the Showa era really showed that. So I'll check out the new site and I will report back. So that was a rather epic kind of news roundup, news, and a lot of stuff about video games. Now it's time to talk about my life. I wonder, will we get a jerky fucking intro? If we do, I'm going to cut straight out of it. Here we go. Wow, we survived. So my life, what's going on in my life? Well, I've registered an Airbnb apartment in Japan. So I had an Airbnb business. I had 6 apartments and I built it all off my own fucking back. There was a boom here when it came out, but heavy legislation has destroyed it. Basically, corruption in the hotel industry, lobbying the government, giving backhanders and bungs so the government in turn destroy the fast-growing Airbnb market and put the hotels back on the map. Now, I heard Japan became the country it is because in another era, way before the Meiji era, the emperor embraced technology as much as he could. I think it was the Industrial Revolution, and that spearheaded Japan's economic revival and turned it into a major player on the world stage. Hey, now we're in another age. It's not the industrial age, it's the information age. It's internet. Imagine not charging people through the nose everywhere they go for internet and giving it free. Taxes pay for internet. It's a human right everywhere. Everyone has access to super fast internet all the time. Can you imagine how the economy would boom? And not only that, exploit these new sharing businesses, Uber, Airbnb and so on. Don't regulate them just for the old industry, but what are they going to do? What about their jobs? If they're inferior, sorry, fuck them. Because like Steve Jobs said, something like, death is the agent of change, it's very necessary. And so, hey, if you're offering a better service, support that, and the old people get with the new times or fuck off, and we're going to have the most advanced city in the world. And that's it. And so, I think that something like Airbnb should really be supported by the governments, but they don't have the vision of Massacre, of us. They can't understand it, but we'll keep championing the right way on the Johnny Massacre Show, the ways of virtue. Join us. Anyways, I got one Airbnb apartment registered. I lost a whole bunch, so I'm happy to do that. I kind of steadied the ship, and now I'm going to be like Conor McGregor after getting beaten by Khabib, or like Murphy after being destroyed by shotguns in RoboCop. Or Batman, after getting his back broken by Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, I've been bashed down, but I've steadied the ship and I'm going to come back stronger and triumph. This is the successful third act. So I've started my Airbnb. I'm very happy about it. It means I can make more Johnny Massacre shows, but I still need your support. Patreon.com/Johnny Massacre. The more you can give, the more it helps us form this movement. It's us against them. We can do it. And so, yeah, that's gone on in my life. I started an Airbnb. Also, I got this wonderful piece of hardware called a Manley variable mu. It's called a Varimu because it's something to do with one of the tubes or valves in this unit that regulates the amplification, and it gives a very smooth compression reminiscent of the old classic compressors such as the Fairchild 670, which today goes for about $50,000. It does it for a lot cheaper, although it's not really a cheap piece of gear, and it's a finesse piece. It's good for mastering. If you want to master your music, i.e. make it louder and put a bit of sheen on it, this is the first thing you want to put your song through. If you do that, it makes it malleable. It makes it ready for processing. And before this, you have a lot of disparate elements floating somewhere in the ether of the mix. The bass, the drums, the vocals, and so on. This is like Spider-Man shooting his webbing everywhere, for want of a better metaphor, and harnessing all these disparate elements together and pulling them together. It's like pouring super glue in your mix and gluing in the cracks. So Manley Varimu. This baby runs hot. The valves glow inside, a fiery glow, which is quite cool. But I've got to get a rack now because this is getting ridiculous. So yeah, that is going on in my life at the moment. And that's about it. So in the mailbox today, Jonathan GLaDOS on YouTube says, you play on any consoles or on PC? I don't have a PC, I have a Mac. Don't play games on Mac. There's like no games on Mac. Ever since the Mac was a Mac, there's hardly been any games, and it's really fucking annoying, but it's always going to be a niche market. And so developers just want to release their games on a system where a lot of people and potential customers are available. So Macs suck for gaming. Civilization, great game. I will buy that every like 3 or 4 years, but that's about it. And I have a PlayStation and an Xbox. So yeah, I'm on all of them. On Xbox, gamertag Johnny Massacre. On PlayStation, gamertag Mariah Carey's Tit. Don't ask. MARIYACareystitz or Z. Mariah Carey's Tits, I think. So when you die at the hands or the tits of me, you were killed by Mariah Carey's tits. Very droll. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. Hit me up and let's play some games, people. So, yeah. Am I going to join the light side or am I going to join the dark side at the end of the show? Every episode I have to decide whether to finish on a positive or a negative note. And I'm going to join the light side, man. I'm just feeling really positive today. This was a very long show. Yesterday's one was a bit of a slog. I had to do it many times to get it right. But after a few days off, I'm back and I'm on episode 32, which is just insane. I think 100 will be coming up in no time at all. And actually probably by Christmas or around just after Christmas. So we're going to have to do a very special Johnny Massacre show for episode 100. I think even 50 is going to be a bit of a milestone. So the only reason I do this is because of you watching. I love it when you leave me comments. Like if I wake up and read the comments, as opposed to some kind of email that's threatening to dox me or whatever. It's good. It's good shit. So I went by the name of Johnny Massacre. You've been witnessing the Johnny Massacre show. And I will see you on the next one. Don't forget to support me on patreon.com Johnny Massacre. There's all kind of ranks on there. You can kind of buy in to the hierarchy of Massacre. And if you get to a high rank, well, there's all kinds of, secret hand signs and handshakes and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you give generously on patreon.com/Johnny Massacre. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you.